friends, you know it's a Wednesday and you know it's my favorite day of the week because we get women from all across the board in different industries, just trailblazing. I bring them on the show, we learn more about them and we feel more inspired to chase our dreams and accomplish them, right? So today is no different. Please welcome Lesedi Metsoamere, Regional Executive for Private Wealth Banking across KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga for ABSA. And with a career spanning so many institutions, she's been in banking for a while, having worked for some of the biggest banking institutions across the country. Now, not only is she excellent at commercial banking, she's also done a lot of other things, including completing her BCom in finance, a postgraduate diploma from Wits Business School, and recently completed a leadership program at Stanford Graduate School of Business in the United States, focusing on sustainable strategies. But beyond the titles and, of course, the accolades, she's passionate. She's a passionate advocate for gender parity, personal branding, and creating inclusive environments where people can totally thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lesedi Metsoamere. How are you, babe?
Thank you so much, Carol. I am doing really, really well, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, excited about this conversation.
Yes.
And yeah, what an introduction, so thank you.
Right. I mean, I first met you at the KZN Top Businesswoman, where you were recognized as one of the top women there. I was the MC for the evening, and I was just so inspired by, firstly, you're very young. And then to learn of the role you have played and how you've literally excelled in your career over the years to be where you are right now, I think is so inspiring for young people, because we always think that in order to get certain roles, certain titles, you have to be a certain age, you have to be a certain this, you have to be a certain that. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
You are doing your BCom, you're finishing. How did you land up finding yourself in the world of finance, specifically the banking world? And then now the head in KwaZulu-Natal and in Mpumalanga, looking over all these roles.
So the journey started when my previous employer was actually recruiting. They were starting a contact center at the time, and they were looking for people that were going to come and work and look after clients. And it was a nighttime job. And so I was very excited about that. I mean, what student doesn't want money?
Right.
So I went for the interview, got the role, and I started working, but we were working at night. So I was at varsity during the day, at work at night.
Wow.
Started making money, but also just learning, you know. And I think the bug bit when I felt a certain way when I made a client's day.
Right.
You know, and I think that for me is how things really started off. And I knew that I wanted to be in a space where I could always make a difference and be impactful. So that's really how the journey started. And I moved along quite quickly, put my hand up at every opportunity, you know, really created depth from a knowledge perspective for myself.
Nice.
And then started to create visibility for myself so that I'm visible, I am seen. And I suppose then the promotions come, right? And you start moving around. And then another institution was also interested in me coming over. Then I moved over to them and really quickly grew throughout the career. So it hasn't been easy, as you can imagine, but it's been quite a fulfilling journey.
I love that. Now you're leading private wealth banking across two major provinces, Mpumalanga and KZN.
Yes.
And we were just chatting off air that your team is 43 people strong.
Yes.
What does a day in a private wealth executive look like?
Sure. If you could predict my day, I would give you a lot of money. Our days are unpredictable, but I think the biggest thing when you are leading a team like that, and I think the very first thing that's quite important for me is the vision, right? You have to have a vision. You have to understand where the team is going, how the business is growing, where you want it to land in X number of years, right?
Right.
So having a very clear vision is important, but what is more important is communicating that vision and making it clear to the person on the ground to say, if I do this, this is how I contribute to the vision and the growth of this business. And that is predominantly my role in ensuring that, you know, the execution of the strategy is done by the people on the ground. Second to that, I am also a leader of leaders, right? So I have managers that report to me. So I'm also leader coach. I have to coach them. I have to make sure that I always use a soccer analogy. You know, when the team is not winning, you don't see the coach going into the change rooms to put on their uniform so that they can go onto the pitch, right? So they don't don't play the match. You can't play.
Yes.
So don't get caught up in that. It's really about how do you coach your teams and lead them in order for them to deliver what they need to do. And then I also just remove blockages. I think my biggest role actually is enablement, right? So I say that the bankers must make the sale. My job is to enable that sale, right? And then I think last but not least, it's really around engagements, protecting the brand of my employer, engaging external stakeholders, and also talking to clients, because that's a very big part of the role. So we need to talk to our clients. We need to know that the solutions that we are providing for them are indeed solving the problems that they're looking to solve.
Wow.
So in a nutshell, that is sort of my role, with a million other things.
Right. I love how you also put in there your leadership style and how you look at leadership. I think that's a really beautiful way of saying it, that, you know, as the soccer coach, you're not going to put on the outfit because the guys are losing and go and play. Because chances are you'll probably lose. If we look at some of the coaches.
You can't play.
You know, and how you have to just trust the team to do what they got to do, and you have the strategy. She is, and very happy to say, only 36. Just so young. And already in such a high level in the space that you're working in. And you're a single lady. And we were chatting about, navigating that. And my next question would be, as a single woman at executive level, very senior level, do you ever feel society questions your ambition and how have you learned to own your own path and just be unapologetically you when you walk into those rooms? Already we know women have sat in that same chair time and time again and said, you walk into rooms, it's mainly men, and sometimes you just don't feel like you belong.
Yeah. So, Carol, I think the important thing is clarity of self.
Yeah.
You need to know who you are, right? In a room where you're often the only woman and sometimes the only black woman, you cannot be the one who's confused about who you are.
Yes.
So you need to be clear about who you are. I invested in competence. That's important. And because when you sit in those meetings, you need to actually know what you're talking about.
Right.
Because there will always be discrimination. There will always be somebody that thinks you're too young, you're too black, you don't have enough experience, you're a woman, etc. Right? So clarity of self, I think, is quite important. Investing in your competence and making sure that the numbers speak for you. Where in those rooms where you can't speak, the numbers must speak for you.
Yeah.
But I also refuse to shrink. Right. I'm not a man, so I don't lead like a man, and I don't pretend to be one.
Right.
I tap into my femininity, into my softness. My emotions are my superpower. I always say that as a woman in leadership, your emotion is your superpower, because not only are you strategic, you're decisive, but you also lead empathetically and with softness. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
So that's really how you sort of navigate that world. But competence, excellence, and delivery on those numbers is very, very important.
Wow, I love that. So I mentioned earlier, we first met at KZN Top Business. You were being recognized for being a top businesswoman in 2025. That was last year. What did that recognition mean for you personally?
So that recognition, and it was so special. It was actually my highlight of 2025.
Right. And
that was affirmation, right? Because nobody really speaks about the loneliness of leadership and how isolating leadership can be, right? Because you have a lot of important decisions to make. You have, tough calls that you need to make that sit on your shoulder. So it can be very isolating.
Right.
And KZN Top Business really just showed me that the work that I do is seen, and more so that it's impactful.
Yeah.
And I think the second piece to that is that on the inspiration side is that it showed each and every young person out there that it's possible.
That it's possible.
So yes, it is possible, because representation shifts ambition, right? So when people are represented, they often are able to see themselves in you. So
100%.
so I really feel that more than anything, what it has done, or rather my hope, is that when a young person looks at me, they see a reflection of themselves.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And with reflection of themselves, it's always good to leave with a great message to everyone listening. What is your advice for a young person entering the finance space or the corporate leadership space? What do you say to them?
So if you are still entering and you're still sort of like, finding your way, the very big piece of advice that I have is build depth before you chase visibility.
That is so powerful. Say that again, please.
Build depth before you chase visibility.
Oh, That's powerful.
You have to build your competence. You have to be competent, and that requires hours in. When I was younger, I used to work 12, 14-day hours. That was my norm. I never complained. I ate both lunch and dinner in the office because I needed to be obsessed about what it meant to be excellent in the field that I work in. So you need to build your depth before you chase visibility and master your craft, right? It's very important for you to understand the business, understand how it works, not just in your particular role or division, but the entire broader, if you're in the finance industry, the financial industry, you need to know how that works. And then the last piece of advice from a leadership perspective, and this is something that my current leader, who's a phenomenal human being, his name is John Shabalala, and he normally, always says to me that when you are in leadership, you need to accept that you're going to make bad decisions. But it is how quickly you pivot that will determine your success or your failure. Wow. And there's a Chinese proverb that actually speaks to this statement because it's quite powerful, right? And the proverb says, once you realize that you're on the wrong train, get off at the next stop. Because the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive the trip is to come back.
Yeah, no.
That is a powerful proverb. And I think for me, it's truly, truly important for people to understand that you need to pivot. Leadership has no place for ego and pride. It has no place. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be courageous. And my final words of encouragement, in the word of Brené Brown, be courageous, be vulnerable, and dare to lead.
Dare to lead. Lesedi Metsoamere, thank you so much for your time. Amazing, Lesedi. She's a regional executive for private wealth banking across KwaZulu as well as in Mpumalanga at ABSA. Thank you so much for your time. What words of encouragement? And I just see like you just shattering the ceiling going up, and we are there to shine with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.